Oh, hey there. What are you doing? I'm just getting ready to start another episode of the Out of Spec podcast. Great timing. You are just so smart. You are on it lately, tuning in with the Out of Spec podcast. So thank you for joining me, Francie, your host on your go-to podcast for all things electric. We talk about everything from huge industry developments to fun, interesting stories about going electric to everyday EV ownership, expert interviews, everything in between, everything EV and EV adjacent. And today is no exception. When it comes to EVs, there are amazing lease options out there, which really create a great opportunity for folks to inexpensively try out an EV for an extended period of time. Usually, you could even buy it out at the end. Sometimes you can't. And today we're going to talk to Colton from Out of Spec Detailing because he has taken advantage of a truly mind-bogglingly inexpensive lease deal for a Kia EV6 2024 wind trim. So let's get into it with Colton. This episode is made possible by the support we get from Fort Collins Kia. If you are in the market for any electric Kia, not only do they never add market adjustments, they will deliver your car to you anywhere in the 48 contiguous states for out-of-spec viewers. More information in the link in the show notes. Okay, buddies, before we dive in with Colton, I just want to give you a little bit of background of what we're going to chat about. He found this crazy lease deal. He even heard about it from someone else and called the dealership up in northern Colorado, and he has taken advantage of the one for the EV6. I'm pulling it up here so you can see Kia's options. Kia offers the Niro EV, the EV6, and the EV9 as their fully electric options right now. And generally, we have been pretty excited to see the approach that Kia is taking with their EV technology. And going forward, there's a lot to be, I think, excited about. So hopefully, Kia and Hyundai are going to continue to approach this, I would say, like pretty well so far. Part of that is being able to get these in the hands of folks so they know that you're making a quality product. That is where these really amazing lease deals start to come in. The one that Colton is taking advantage of is just crazy cheap. And we're going to learn all about that and why he decided to lease instead of buy, et cetera, et cetera. A lease can be a great option, especially if you haven't gone electric before. Here, try it out for a little bit of time. Maybe you can buy it out at the end, maybe not. But we're going to dive into all of that. He's going to tell us about what he likes, what he doesn't like, of course, the deal in detail, and generally give you a sense of what might be out there. So keep an eye out on your local dealerships for any trends, and maybe even give them a call to see what they might offer up. Okay, let's bring Colton in on all of this. Okay, we are now joined by Colton from Out of Spec Detailing and Clear Detailing, and can't wait for you to get your hands on the VinFast that I have never washed whatsoever. But today we are talking about leasing, so it's good to see you, Colton. Ironically, we're both in Colorado, and we are having a virtual podcast call. But
what are we doing here, Francie? I mean, you're like 50 miles away.
I am. And you are calling in from what car? If you're tuning in on video, you can see that Colton's in a car.
So this is actually the new rig. This is my Kia EV6 Wind all-wheel drive, and picked up an absolutely smoking deal on this thing that we're going to get all into the details today.
We are. And as we both know, deals with leases on EVs have been really great as of late. I think there's been a lot of options, and more it seems like, okay, if automakers or dealerships, whatever it is, are offering these really cool, affordable lease deals on EVs, might as well take advantage of that right now instead of buying one. And we want to get into that as well. Our opinion on leasing, your opinion on leasing. You've leased EVs before. We're leasing the VinFast VF8. I think that's definitely the move to take with the VinFast products right now, although, like I've said before, some people have bought those outright. They were just super excited about it. But yeah, so let's talk about how you've recently leased the Kia EV6 for a really inexpensive rate. Tell me exactly what that was. How did you hear about this deal? And then maybe we can talk about what else you were considering.
So the deal came up out of nowhere. We can get into the backstory of how it came, but I think viewers should know. So this is a almost $55,000 MSRP vehicle. It's a 2024 Kia EV6 Wind. It has the glacier white exterior with kind of the gray interior. And the deal was insane. basically I could not pass it up. So what I did is I leased this for 2 years and 20,000 miles, so 24 months total. It is $187 a month, Francie, with $1,500 out of pocket. Now that out of pocket, which I didn't mention in the video we did on out of spec reviews, includes my first month payment. It includes all the taxes and fees. So there's nothing else other than plates, of course, I have to go pay for here in Colorado. But I really can't fathom how they are doing deals like this, in all honesty. And when I reached out to Kia Fort Collins, I talked to Mike, the owner over there, and he sent me the numbers over. I was like, is this real, or like, what's going on with this? I mean, it's insane.
Okay, yeah, that is less expensive than we pay for the VinFast.
Yeah.
And I do start to think, yeah, how are they doing this? Did you get any more insight from the dealer on why they decided to do this, on why it's so cheap, how they can afford it?
So I think the dealership model is, of course, a little different than what Tesla, Rivian, and Lucid are doing with having, direct to consumer type sales. And dealerships really have kind of their own autonomy, if you will, on how they kind of structure their business. So what it seems to me Kia Fort Collins is doing is not trying to mark these cars up. They're trying to get inventory. They get incentives when they do a lot of quantity of vehicles. So, think about it. If this dealership's selling 20 EV6s a month versus one that's selling 5, that may equal out to be about the same, revenue total after costs and everything. And, in dealerships, when cars sit around, they pay a lot of money for those. So there are incentives to get cars out of the door. I went over to another dealership local here, and the deal was almost double from what I was getting from Fort Collins Kia. They had none on the lot, where Fort Collins Kia had, I believe, 19 EV6s just sitting there. And I think they went through quite a bit after the reviews video went live.
Oh, wow. Okay. Was it just the fact that, wow, this is a great lease deal that I can come across that I'm really pulled this way? Or were you already considering the EV6?
So honestly, EV6 was not even on my radar. So here's my current car situation. So I just recently, back in October, got a 2023 Model 3 Performance. I purchased that vehicle. The numbers on this car, Francie, were insane, to say the least. So we can run through the quick backstory. I paid $48,000 MSRP for this car. It was a $54,000 car at the time, so they discounted it about $7,000. Then on top of that, I got a $7,500 federal tax credit. Then on top of that, I got a $5,000 Colorado tax credit. So we're talking like mid to high 35-ish $1,000 for a brand new Model 3 Performance. And of course, I knew the new one was coming out, but I was like, I can't pass this deal up. Then we also have an ID4. That's my wife's, daily driver, her normal car. We pay a ton of money a month for that car, like around $800 range on it. And we bought it when, I was looking for a tax credit. Tax credits help me out a lot running my own business. And that's really why I get into these cars. But we purchased that car as well. And in all honesty, I'm kind of kicking myself for buying that car because we're so underwater on it. So then we also have my Model 3 long range, and I have leased that car. That really got me started into the EV world. That was my first EV, really experiencing the Tesla brand and how these cars work, and really come to, obviously love EVs. I now have 4 of them. Now that car comes up on lease in September. So I started looking at different options there. I think Francie and I are probably going to do a podcast on the lease on that car, but it leaves very soon. Then I also have an Audi Allroad. That's my 05 Audi Allroad. That's really my dog car. And reality, I think people are like, why do you have so many cars? I like having different cars for different use cases. So my Model 3 Performance is not comfortable to throw my 3 golden retrievers in. And I also don't want them to completely destroy it. It has white interior. It's like, I want to keep this car super nice. So the Audi Allroad was my dog car. Now, I had 2 Model 3s, which was not the most ideal situation, but it was nice to, loan it out to a friend or just put some miles on different cars. And yeah, Model 3 is leaving. The other Model 3 Performance is staying. The ID4 is staying. So I started looking at cars. And I was looking at quite a few different things. So Rivian leases right now are pretty crazy, especially for the R1Ts. Our friend Drew from Martian Wheels just leased one out. I think he was paying around $500 a month, Francie, for a dual motor performance R1T large battery pack with about $3,000 out of pocket. An insanely enticing deal. But as you can tell, I have a lot of car payments, and that monthly adds up quickly. I also have 2 mortgages. So we have a house and the shop that's sitting behind me. So my expenses are very, very high a month, and I'm very gracious to be able to do all of these things. But I really was trying to lower my monthly cash outflow. So I started looking, and my Model 3 long range lease is 700-ish bucks a month. And I go, okay, I want to cut that down. And I was considering not getting a car and just keeping the Audi Allroad. Problem with the Allroad, it's one of the least reliable cars out there. If anybody knows the Allroad, so it's an '05, has air suspension, a twin turbo 6 that is not the most reliable engine, and it's an automatic, which is not ideal. It's like 3 strikes for this car. So I'm getting more and more concerned as I drive this car more, as it's been so hot here in Colorado. The AC rarely keeps up for the dogs. I can't, go to the store, leave the dogs inside. So it's kind of a pain in the butt for me to drive this car with the dogs. So I got looking. R1T was out of the question because it's too small in the back for me. 3 dogs getting up there. The seats don't fold the way I would need them to. So I was like, okay, that's a no-go. R1S is really my wife's like tippity top. So R1S was on the list, but we're going to be paying $800 plus a month for that car. And I'm like, I need to shrink this down. So then I go, okay, what about the new Model 3 Highland rear wheel drive? And I got looking into that, and it's still expensive, Francie. It's really still expensive. So maybe if you can go to the lease deal there, click on lease and go to customize. So the thing you do here, Jordan taught me this, put the gas cost to $1 a month, okay, and then scroll all the way back over to your actual lease. There you go. So at $299 or $2,999 down payment on the car plus taxes and fees, what does that come out to a month, Francie?
Estimated lease payment $328 per month, and due at signing is nearly $5,000.
Yeah,
Which technically in Colorado, maybe you could start to discount in your head, but that is,
sure.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money out of pocket. And then if you do like a 0 down, it comes out to around $425 to $450 a month, depending on the spec of the car, with about $2,000 out of pocket. And I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a Model 3 rear wheel drive. It's a great car. It's still a little tight for the dogs, but you're still paying $450 a month for a Model 3. And I'm like, I don't know. So I actually posted on Twitter. I said, what are you guys seeing on lease deals out there? I was just genuinely curious what people have been leasing cars out for. And someone commented that they live, I think, down in Denver, Boulder area, that Kia Fort Collins, he got an insane deal. Now, he had told me it was $88 a month with $1,500 down for a light, long-range rear-wheel drive, which is not the trim that I actually got. And I was like, is that real? And so I started doing some talking. I actually called Mike over there at Kia Fort Collins and said, hey, this guy got this deal. Are you still doing this? Because he got it in April. And he said, let me run some numbers on you. And he basically upped the trim level 1. So the wind comes with, Meridian sound, heated steering wheel, ventilated heated seats. So I'm like, okay, this is a really, really nice rig for $187 a month. So that was basically all the cars I considered and how I came to this car.
It makes me wonder, you were saying about the Model 3, maybe not enough space. Why not the Model Y? Why weren't you considering that one?
Yeah, go check out the Model Y lease if you want to pull that up quickly. I mean, it is even more expensive.
So I did your trick, or Jordan's trick, whoever's trick it is, estimated lease payment. Yeah, I mean, with $3,000 down, if you put 0 down, $544 a month estimated lease payment.
And with how much out of pocket on them there?
Let's see if we include all the estimated taxes and fees. It is loading. We've got, $2,000 due at signing.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I started looking
Hefty.
at that and I'm like, okay, yes, I can afford that now. To be honest, Francie, I'm not a huge Model Y person. And the reason being is I don't like the seating position in the car. The car, I've always sat in it and never felt comfortable. It's just been one of those
Mhm.
cars that it's like, okay, I understand the rationale for getting it. And realistically, I think the big incentives are to buy a Model Y because you get $7,500 tax credit and then you have a $5,000 state tax credit on there. But interest rates are still high right now. And I'm like, I really don't want to purchase another car. I just purchased two
Mhm.
in the last, year and a half or whatever, and
Mhm.
north of $800 payments on those. And I think Model Y would be around the same.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that this deal with the EV6, they're able to access, a broader category of people. I do think that leasing could be a way for folks to dip their toes in the electric pool before they jump all the way in with a purchase. And I do think, of course, it's more cost effective in a lot of ways for the consumer. Of course, the dealers want to push them off the lot and, not have these sitting around. But there has been the case of kind of rapid depreciation concerns with buying an electric vehicle, which I think not a lot of people did not see coming, but there have been some surprise influences in it. For instance, Tesla just dropping prices, that creates a different kind of value for the vehicle that you might have bought a while back. I know people who have been affected by that, so it does seem like the lease was a good option, and the car was decent enough to fit your needs. So was the leasing process easy? How did that go? Lease again?
So 24 months. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to drive this that much. My wife, Jessica, got in this the other day and she's like, oh, thanks for my new car. You can drive the ID4 now. So I think we're going to be
Mm.
fighting a little bit of who's going to be driving this and then who's going to be driving the ID4. I like the ID4. I think it looks cooler, but comfort wise, this thing is so nice. It feels oddly much more high quality, I would say, than the ID4. Some of the plastics and things in here are very cheap, especially when you get into the second row. But I'm not really sitting in the second row of this, but I love the layout. Now, software is going to be a topic of discussion. That settings on this car, Francie, are like, it's taken my brain a while to wrap around it. I really don't love the software in this, to be quite honest. It doesn't look that nice. It's very kind of glitchy. It's kind of odd. And then you're having to dig through menu and menu and menu to get your settings set up. So I spent an hour and a half sitting in the car, just going through every menu, getting my settings dialed in. But I think it's a hard car for someone like my wife, Jess, who doesn't understand all of this stuff. She just wants to get in and go. That's why the ID4 was perfect for her. I've made this claim after owning the ID4 for, I guess, a year and a half now or so. It is a great car. It's a terrible EV, absolutely terrible EV. Now they've got updates to it, of course, with the new 2024, where you have proper route planning, proper preconditioning. But I won't road trip that car because I don't know what I'm going to get to a charger at. It is literally a guessing game where I'm having to sit there doing math to figure out, can I make it here? Now, on top of that, we have aftermarket wheels. We have 22-inch wheels on our ID4, which is
Oh.
insane. Yeah, one of the first in the world to do that. They look insane. The car's lowered, like it's really cool looking, but then it also is way more inefficient. So this is going to be our new road tripper because we can throw the dogs back here. We can throw luggage in here. The Model 3, it gets very cramped to do that.
Okay. Have you been able to charge it yet? Fast charge it? Are you
No,
just going
and
to
I'm
slow?
so excited because this is going to be the best charging EV we own by a landslide. Like everybody talks about the charging networks. Okay, Tesla, of course, has the upper hand there. But if you get this thing charging on EVgo, Electrify America, this thing boogies. 0 to 50% just holds. I think it's 220, 230 kilowatts, so less peak than my Model 3 Performance, but it like holds it to 50%. 10 to 80 is in 18 minutes. Now, I have watched quite a bit of videos that these have some really poor thermals because they're pulling so much current in there. But this is my first 800 volt architecture vehicle that's actually 800 volt, unlike EV9. I don't know why that even sits in that class, but Yeah, I'm super excited to throw this thing on a fast charger and see how quickly it rips.
Ooh, me too. Yeah, that sounds incredible, especially with, the charging that I'm used to with the VinFast. When I get 144 kilowatts for a minute or so, I'm really excited. So to
Whoa.
think about that charging curve in the EV6, it totally changes things. And I'll be interested to hear, yeah, like what else you learn about it and stuff. And maybe we can have a check-in in the future. But specifically, besides fast charging and seeing how that buggy is, as you say, is there anything specific features wise or aspect wise or driving wise that you're looking forward to exploring with your new leased EV6?
Yeah, I think just still like learning the vehicle, it always takes a bit of time. I feel very uncomfortable when I get into new cars. And it's funny, I always say this that the Model 3 is always my EV reset. I don't know what it is about that car. When I get in it, it feels like home. It's so the regen is so tuned amazingly well. But I've also liked the regen on this because it feels quite a bit stronger. But you get these times where you're expecting it to slow down and it kind of jolts and does things like that. So it's just going to take a little bit of time to get tuned into that. The app is of course not even close to as good as Tesla, but it also has some impressive features. Every single drive you take, it gives you a little printout of how many kilowatt hours you use for your driving, your climate control, accessory. It's just
Yeah.
there's some really neat things that this car does. I will say one of the largest negatives this car has is it doesn't have pet mode, which even your VinFast has.
Yeah, VinFast has, and also in the VinFast app, you can see the different trips that tracks your trips. I don't think to the nth degree of the kilowatt of the power usage or the energy usage as your Kia app is showing you, but the VinFast does have some specific traits. I think we're seeing that a little bit where we imagine like a Frankenstein EV, where we get enough information as the driver that we can either just function and have it an easy drive, or get into the details of what's going on, especially on the electric vehicle side of things. Seems
Yeah.
like you like it, Colton.
I really enjoy it, but there is a way to leave climate on. It's crazy to me in 2024 that every single EV doesn't have pet mode. It's ridiculous in my opinion. So the way you can leave climate on in here, Francie, do you know how to do this on the EV6s or EV9s?
No, tell me.
Okay, so you go into utility mode under the EV tab. That will leave the climate on. But the most important distinction here, it leaves the doors unlocked. So if you take the keys with you, somebody could technically just get inside your car and take one of the dogs, take all the dogs, whatever that is, or steal something out of the vehicle. The only way to lock your vehicle in utility mode is when you're getting out, you roll down the window and you literally put your hand through the window, you press lock, and then you roll the window up and walk away from it. And that's how you use dog mode in the EV6 or EV9.
Okay, so life hack for
It's like, how is this a thing?
complicated way. Yeah, no, that's crazy. Yeah, you should just be able to leave it on. Although the VinFast doesn't let you leave it on if you're under 25%, which is, I'm like, if I'm going to run it down, let me run it down. But yeah, so what I was doing when I had a bit of an error in pet mode before I reset, I think it was when I got that software update, I had to, I just left the car unlocked and the air conditioning on. I was like, I'm not going to, whatever, come try to steal from Rafiki. Good luck,
Yeah.
But
I think
yeah,
my
every
dogs,
car
though,
should have it.
the golden retrievers would be so excited. They'd be like, ooh, where are we going? Like
Come
new
on
friends.
in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They would not be aggressive at all. They'd be super excited to see somebody trying to get in the vehicle. So I would say that's one of my biggest negatives with this car, but there's so many good things that I'm learning about this car that I'm really starting to enjoy it and, appreciate how comfortable it is. And Francie, this car boogies. This thing is way faster than our ID4 too, which is crazy.
Great. Okay. So it's like Kia is able to get these into folks' hands at an inexpensive rate, and they're making a product that, from what I've seen, people will be pretty satisfied with, especially when it comes to maybe the software is not great, but charging experience on a road trip, I think that can really make it or break it for some people, and also the accuracy of the range. So it seems like this is an interesting tactic from them. Get them in the hands as most people possible with an inexpensive lease, and make something that they will like. And then I think that could have a big impact on, brand I don't know, awareness when it comes to EVs. What do you think about this approach in general, their approach in general to electric?
Yeah, I mean, this car it's an expensive car, and when every time I post about this car on Twitter, it's like, why not just get a Model Y? And honestly, that's been if anybody asks me like, hey, I'm getting my first EV, what should I get? I just say get a Tesla. I love Teslas. Do not get me wrong, but there's a lot of people who don't appreciate who runs the company, and that's a big distinction for them. They don't want to support that, and they don't want to deal with the Tesla annoyances of rattly cars. Francie, driving this car down the road, it is amazingly quiet. Not a single rattle in here. Like, way better built than my Model 3 Performance. But I do think we're in a very interesting space right now because the news is everywhere that EVs are slowing down or we're going to turn back to all combustion vehicles. I'm not sure that's completely the case. I think the economy has still been a little up and down. People are getting a little worried. Of course, we have, not getting political, but things are going to change towards the end of this year for better or for worse, or maybe for worse or worse. I don't exactly know. But yeah, I think it's a very unbelievably nice car for the price I'm paying. And still, there's other vehicles out there that are leasing not as well as this, but Ioniq 5 leases are around $225 a month with, $1,500 to $2,000 out of pocket. Like, that's still an amazing deal. So I would really say that a lot of people need to go shop around. Now, Colorado, guys, I should have mentioned this earlier. This deal is really only for Colorado because we get the 5350. I don't remember the exact name, Innovative Motor Vehicle Credit or whatever that is, Francie. Right there. So Kia actually takes that. So I can't do that with my taxes next year like I could on the Model 3. So that also helps with that price point. So folks, on either coast were reaching out to Fort Collins Kia and couldn't get this deal on there. So definitely think about that. If you're going to call them, it may be a little higher, but it sounds like they're still leasing out pretty darn well.
Yep. Sounds like they might be interested in chit-chatting with you about it like they did with Colton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully your state has some sort of incentives. Colorado is, you can really stack them. We've touched on that a little bit here and there, which makes it, probably helps it have the higher adoption rates that we're seeing amongst the US states. I'm happy for you, Colton. I mean, you have, a ton of cars and like experience to not only compare how leases are between different automakers, but also, of course, the EVs themselves. So hopefully I can come see the EV6 sometime soon. Maybe I'll leave you with the VinFast and I'll take the EV6.
Oh, I love this thing so much. I really do. I think it's, it's just funny on Twitter. Of course, you post, like I said, you post anything about this, like, why don't you just get a Tesla? Teslas are better in certain ways, but there's also things in this car that is better and that I enjoy having those different experiences. I didn't just want to be the guy who only drives Teslas because there are other really interesting vehicles out there. Like, this thing would smoke my Model 3 on a road trip. Absolutely smoke it. And I'm just like, yeah, people don't care. Or they're just like so singular focused, but there's some really cool cars out there and there's differences. There's no perfect vehicle out there. I mean, even R1S is one of my favorite vehicles out there on the road, but it's very expensive. And the second row is insanely tiny. It really is. Like, fitting kid seats back there and things are kind of an annoyance, it's so there's no perfect car is what I'm getting at there. So expand your horizons. It's not only just Tesla. There are some very cool vehicles out there.
Yeah, it is truly great to see more and more competition. That's what we need generally. It's what we've been lacking in this market specifically, but we're starting to see a shift there. And I think it's really great because a lot of people ask me, who else besides Tesla is doing well? What else should I be considering? And then there's the premium options, and then there's like the Leafs, and then the in between is getting filled in a bit more, which I love to see. So glad that you're exploring this option. I want to touch on your other leases in the past because it's not all apples to apples either. And I think that's important. Read the fine print, know what you're getting into. But thank you, Colton, for the insight on the new EV6 Wind. And I'm curious what other people are going to think about your impressions so far. So let us know in the comments, y'all. Thanks, Colton.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's been super fun being on here, and hopefully, I think we're gonna do right after this. We're gonna have talk a little bit about my Model 3 lease experience and the negatives that are with Tesla and leasing.
Yeah, that was not the best one. So stay tuned for that, everyone. And yes, to our listener, thank you for plugging in with us today for another episode of the Out of Spec podcast. Drive safe, stay charged, like, share this, comment. We want to hear from you. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.